David Banner.
So let me ask you this real quick. What motivates you past money?
Man, well, I mean, it's a lot of things that motivate me past money. Money actually does not motivate me very much, man. I mean, I mean, those of us who have been fortunate enough, and I don't, I'm by no means what someone would say is a rich man, just financially, but you know how you think before you have something or have reached a certain level, you think there's some kind of feeling you'll have when you get it.
Yeah.
And I can remember the first time that I was fortunate enough to do a deal that gave me.
Hold on, you remember me telling you that about like you expect these big things? Because what's crazy is the life I went through in the streets in Mississippi, I was never depressed. We were shooting and fighting, and I didn't start getting depressed until I got money. So sometimes even that understanding that he is talking about, the flip side of that is like, yo, I got it now. My uncle can't tell me shit about no money. Like, you don't have nobody around you. And then those same people that you love and with literally implode and turn
The
on
reason,
you.
but the reason the Mississippi and the shooting shit didn't depress you because that was normal to you. That's all you knew.
Yeah.
So when it's normal, that's regular. So that's what you expect. So that ain't gonna depress you because that's your life. That's your everyday shit.
Right.
It's not a different feeling when you in that.
But that's also the same thing. That's a common line between being broke and not having much either. Like, I didn't really know we were that fucked up until I got something.
Yeah.
I remember this was one of the most depressing things that's ever happened in my life. I don't know if y'all remember when Puffy first did the vote or die thing. And I said, I'm tired of you motherfuckers talking hypothetically. I'm gonna take y'all to Mississippi and show y'all the shit we going through. So I took them to Mississippi and I took them in one of the homes in downtown Jackson, right? And the house was really, really messed up. And I heard the lady in the back crying. And so I told everybody to cut the cameras off. And I went back there and said, do you want me to stop filming? And she was like, no. I said, well, why are you crying? She said, I never knew I was this fucked up until you showed me.
Asses in here.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like, Jonathan, the reason why I brought this topic up, man, is because it seems to me that, especially when I'm talking to the youth, it's always like, well, shit, if you got money, or like something happened, well, if they got that bread or they got that bag.
Yeah.
Me and Lee and Scott were talking about yesterday, when we were young, you wasn't cool because you had money. We may got money with you or even worked for you, but you was still a lame ass fuck. Like, money didn't define your level of acceptance or coolness.
Right.
But it's like now, to me, we're being driven by paper. And I always say this: if you do anything for money, you're a whore.
True.
And white people, regardless of whether it's raping, pillaging, or whatever the fuck you want to say, they have most of the resources on this planet now. So that means if you do anything for money, to me, you're a whore for white folks in most cases. Because if any way they want to motivate you, they could just motivate you with money.
Right. Yeah, you got to be driven by something more than that, man. To me, there are certain things that are not negotiable. Respect is a non-negotiable thing.
Definitely.
Integrity, non-negotiable.
Define integrity
Well,
to you.
Integrity to me is dealing with things in the way that you would really expect that they should be dealt with in the right way, man. Doing things. If somebody comes to me and they ask me to represent them and speak for them, that I go about that in a way that I would expect it to be approached for myself. Doing the right thing. When faced with dilemmas and tough decisions. Making the decisions that are based on the right thing.
Right.
And so those things for me are a non-negotiable thing, man.
You said respect, integrity, and
Yeah.
you was about to say one other.
Well, it's I mean, it's a number. It's a number of things, man. That just are non-negotiable things in my life, and when I'm representing people and we're doing deals, and I am attempting to work in their best interest. I think about what it is that they desire, or what it is that I would expect that one would want when going into these deals. I take that so seriously, man. And when we go and we do deals and people offer certain things, people are always quick to deal. I say companies who engage with us in these deals are really quick to give us money. They'll give us money in a second, but they don't want to give us those things that will result in more money, accrued money, ownership, a greater piece of the pie. Those types of things that yield a greater piece of that pie. They're quick to oppose those things, and so
I think, excuse me for interrupting, I think a lot of times it comes from what Lee was talking about, because I had one of my homeboys from Mississippi, and I was telling him, man, that how do these kids take these deals that we used to shoot videos for? And he was like, Banner, you got to understand, some of these kids ain't never seen more than $2,000 at one time in their life, you know? And so they deal, and Nipsey Hussle said this before he died. He was like, if we can take care of people's base needs, most people would be able to think
clearly
and do the right things. But in most cases, they keep us in such impoverished situations that it's hard for them to listen to anybody that has seen it. Because I think that's one of the problems, is that there is no connect between the older and the younger people. So the information that could have been given from a David Banner is usually lost because there is no connection with that next generation.
Yeah.
So like I think that's part of the problem, the suffering and the lack of essential needs.
Yeah,
I think you have to,
go ahead.
not to cut you off, brother, but one of the things I found living in L.A., and you know this too, you have to have your moral fabric intact before they put that money on the table. Because if you starving and they put $5 million and they tell you to do some old coonish shit, you're more apt to do it if you're hungry. So Banner and I were fortunate. We didn't move to L.A. until we were a little bit older, more mature, had some experience. So I already knew what I wasn't going to do. Oh, no, that's not for me. We up. We out of here.
We always say, if you don't know, if you don't draw your line or know where your line
Somebody
is,
else, and they'll move it.
they'll tell you where it is, and it's usually halfway across the world.
Right.
I remember, bro, I signed, my first deal I signed, I didn't know what your likeness was. Something so simple. And for you all who are listening, your likeness is literally the way that you look. I did not own my face, my facial recognition. If they wanted to, somebody could have took a Polaroid picture and be like, "Oops, excuse me, that's mine." And the lack of information and knowledge. And I don't want to put you in this position, but you made me think of this. One of the reasons why I had stopped trusting lawyers is when I found out that a lot of lawyers were working for the record companies. So you would give them $2,000-$3,000 or whatever you could afford. The record label would give them $10,000-$12,000 because it would save them in the long run if you didn't get the type of deal that you were supposed to.
Right.
And I started figuring it out because when I started studying and I went back and started asking, my lawyer about drop dead dates and the things that I had realized, and he was like, yeah, we could put that in there. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do I know this? And I'm a rapper. And then I started moving around and realizing, like, if you don't find someone who the bag isn't good enough for them, then they will also manipulate you in any way that they see fit.
Right. Well, that's why it's so important to educate those people that you represent. I give an overly excess of information.
You do.
To clients, because what I don't want them to do is to come back to me and say, well, Jonathan, you didn't tell me this, man. You didn't say it worked this way. What I do is, people come to me and they ask me to represent them, and I say, hey, look, man, I'm not for everybody. I'm gonna make you make some tough decisions. I'm gonna tell you the truth about the deal. I'm gonna tell you what things I'm concerned about. I'm gonna tell you those things that I think that we could live with, and the things I'm concerned about, I'm gonna beat, like a dead horse, man. I'm gonna beat it to death so that they understand what they're getting into. They make an informed decision about it. Because exactly what you talked about, them coming back later and saying, "Hey, look, here's I didn't recognize that, or I didn't realize that this worked this way."
Right.
One of the things you said earlier about one of the challenges in music, entertainment, I think sports, is that young people are given so much so soon when they're not equipped to deal with it. They don't have the maturity, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the wisdom to be good stewards of it. And that's one of the things you asked me earlier about what motivates me and being a good steward of what we're given, because we know we don't deserve it all. Some
When
of
you
the
say
stuff,
steward, what does that mean?
steward, being responsible for the opportunities that you have been given, being given it and doing the right thing with it. Not squandering it, not getting a check for X numbers of hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, and then 6 months later, a year later, not having any of it. And you're sitting around looking around like, what happened with my money?
So, Jonathan, I have a question. So we understand or know that sometimes it's lack of education, and they just don't know. So what would you recommend they do to learn? Are there classes, or is there certain because sometimes their parents don't know either, and that's going to be the first person they go to discuss the deal.
Yeah, I think you have to just be very diligent about doing your homework to get to the right places and the right people who can guide you. I say in an attorney, when people come to me, I say, look, whoever you look for, whether or not you use me or not, make sure that the person is first competent,
Right.
and two, that they have integrity. And if they don't have, if one of those elements is missing, you're defeating the purpose of even having that person at the table. The integrity part is a very difficult thing to identify early on. That's something that you learn about a person over time, watching them in various situations. But if you talk to enough people, you and do your homework, you should be able to. I would like to think that if somebody found somebody that I represented, that somewhere along the way, that person would say to them, yeah, he's going to tell you the truth. He's going to do the right thing by you. He's not going to abuse the power that you give him. And so it takes some time to figure those things out. But you got to have competence. You got to have integrity, and you actually also would like them to care. Now you actually could do okay if they didn't care, if it didn't ever come into play. But let me give you an example of the whole care piece. Or do you?
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
can you give us one example of when you didn't take the bag?
Oh, I only got a story about you, though. I'll tell that, too, real quick. So we were in L.A., and a performing arts school was giving Banner this real big award, right? So I had just met him. I didn't know what type of cat he was necessarily. I was familiar with his music and his activism, but we didn't know each other. So he invited me to come to this event. We get there, and the person in charge of the school got up in front of the crowd and started basically berating everybody for not donating more money to the school, right? And so it was a very uncomfortable situation. He was beating people over the head, asking for money, telling us we wasn't shit, we weren't supporting the culture. And then it's time for Banner to speak. So he gets up to speak, right? And he starts talking about how disrespected he felt by the guy. And the room got real tense. And he ended his speech by saying, to the children at the school, I'm very honored by this award that you guys have given me. But the way I've been talked to tonight, I can't accept it. And he slammed the trophy on the podium, got up, walked down the stairs, out the back of the venue, and left and didn't come back. That's when I knew he had integrity. That's when I knew he just wouldn't stand for anything, even if it meant being uncomfortable, even if it meant rocking the boat, even if it meant him looking less than how he wanted to present himself. He stands for principles, and those principles do not wave, bro. They do not shake.
Yeah.
And I gained a lot of respect for him that night. The shit was funny because he literally just slammed the trophy down and bounced.
I mean,
But,
dude had some of the women in there was about to cry.
They were.
Because
They were.
everybody don't
Yeah.
have the money that you think they. So
Right.
he was like, pull out a check now. I'm like, what the fuck?
He said that to you?
No, he was talking to everybody.
Oh,
Man,
okay.
I gotta go, man.
Okay.
I got a flight to catch, bro.
Go ahead, love.
Bye, Scott.
Speaking of the bag, I gotta go get mine.
Yeah, but what I was talking about is having it's it's competence, it's integrity, and having somebody that cares. And part of caring is sharing your value system. A similar value system. Caring about the right thing being done, understanding you. We oftentimes in our community, man, we go and we're good to go find other people to represent and speak for us that don't have any concern about where we come from, our way of life, our community. And they're the ones as athletes and entertainers and music people matriculate through the system. Those people, those gatekeepers are the ones that are setting.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because I know who those people. I think I know who those people are. When you eat soup, what do you usually eat it with?
Spoon.
Or what else? I mean, like what?
What? Oh, maybe crackers.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh my God.
I can't believe you just did that.
Look here.
Man, he set you up.
Look here, man. Look.
That has nothing to do with Jonathan and his sperm, y'all. That was all David Banner.
But man, I believe in conscious representation.
Right.
I believe in having people who represent. For some reason, we don't. People from our community, we don't. Let's go to the NFL. Let's go to let's say in the NFL. If you can tell me, I would say that most players in the NFL are represented by Caucasians. Their agents are Caucasians. They have some black agents. I'm saying not saying that they don't have any, but the majority of them are probably represented by white agents. I would be safe to say that most white players in the NFL do not have one black representative. They don't have anybody that represents them outside of their community, somebody that is they see as sharing their own values and understanding them. For some reason, we do it differently.
Yeah.
We look to others to try to guide us, and and those people, like I said, are the gatekeepers, man. Those are the ones that start to set policy. They start to tell you what you care about. They start to influence you in ways, and so we then get to, and I know this is somewhat off the subject, this whole Colin Kaepernick and
it's
Jay-Z
not.
thing, man.
It's not.
Because the bag, I think, comes into play there, but conscious representation comes into play. Colin Kaepernick, this is one of the amazing things to me that I found out as that case went on. Colin Kaepernick had his labor issue with the NFL.
Right.
One day I'm looking at television and I see some news outlet pull up on Mark Geragos. If you all know who Mark Geragos is. He's a criminal attorney, represented Michael Jackson. He's always on a lot of the shows, one of these pundits that comes on. They ask him to be an expert to chime in on criminal issues. Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed, they were represented by Mark Geragos, a criminal attorney. That's like going to the orthopedic specialist, good doctor, working on knees, but asking him to do your heart surgery. How did he get to Mark Geragos? And when that case was settled, when going to that issue of competence, integrity, I would assume Geragos has integrity. I assume that he's a competent criminal attorney, but not labor attorney.
Right.
I don't know about the whole part about caring about where we come from, our causes, what that fight was about. Because they wouldn't settle that case, which it never should have been settled confidentially. Never should have been settled confidentially. Too many people vested, too many people supporting.
Well, can you explain to them what you explained to me about the public emasculation, and then with it being settled privately? That means from
Leaves us in limbo.
Yeah, it not only leaves us in limbo, but they accomplished what they wanted to do by lynching him publicly.
Oh man,
you never got the resolve from that.
Right. So in my view, the issue. Well, speaking to the first thing when you talk about them confidentially settling that, it at the point that they did that, it was Colin Kaepernick's case, but too many other people had joined on, become a part of the movement, the cause,
And put their situations on the line.
Hey man, I used to be a season ticket holder. No more. Yeah. I've been an NFL fanatic since I was about 6 years old, man. I don't even if I see a game on, I feel almost sick, like I'm doing something wrong looking at it. And that was as a result of that. And so people got vested in that sort of way. They defended Kaepernick. And so I feel like it was his responsibility. He should have, if he was going to settle it transparently so we knew how it was resolved so that we could then decide how we were going to act.
Let me tell you how I would confirm what you said for me. Lee, you remember when we were at Derek Grace's party? My son said the same thing. My son was like, yo, all of us had gotten together and was protesting and doing all of this stuff. And then when the case was settled and it was settled privately, everybody was like,
what?
Well, what do we do? What happened? We don't know. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't. So
we didn't know how to act. We didn't know if we could go back to supporting the NFL or if we could go back to feeling good about, how he was treated. We couldn't. We definitely don't know. And here's the most damaging thing that occurred that I don't think people are talking about, and that is that was done for a specific purpose. Kaepernick was made an example to send a message to all of the other players: don't get out of line, otherwise your livelihood will be taken,
will be stripped from you.
It was a high tech lynching, man. They lynched that dude in front of all of those others to send a message to make sure they didn't get out of line. And so that issue has not been spoken to. The NFL today has failed to address it, failed to accept responsibility for it. What they do in I don't know if anybody's ever had to had the opportunity of going to a criminal sentencing hearing. When they have
some people in here have been a part of it.
well, let me just say this. Let me just say this. When you go, one of the requirements from the prosecutor, if somebody's taking a plea, is that they publicly acknowledge and accept responsibility for the crime that they're taking a plea for. You have to go on record and say, I did that. I was wrong, and I'm, you're accepting your plea. The NFL to this day has never acknowledged that they did anything wrong in making an example of Colin Kaepernick. Right. That's why Jay-Z should never have done anything. The NFL doesn't deserve our support from our greatest influences. Somebody who moves the weight part of the pun that Jay-Z moves with our community. You can't go and support them when they haven't accepted the responsibility for what they did, which is the wrong thing. That what they say is we want you to be a good citizen as a player, but we don't want you to be extraordinary. What Kaepernick was doing, which I don't even know that he realized it at the time, he was doing something extraordinary. He was doing the kind of stuff that Malcolm and Martin did. He wasn't just, passing out turkeys down at, at the local, community center or something like that. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I'm saying he was doing extraordinary things. It's like, we want you to be a good citizen, but we don't want you to be great. We don't want you to be extraordinary. And so when you send that message to the people who have the greatest voice, or it's unfortunate, I'm not saying it's right, but our athletes, our entertainers, have the biggest platform and the greatest voice.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's a bad. I wish we were listening to other people who have committed themselves to some of these causes that live and breathe it every day.
But one of the things that I will say, and Lee, I'll let you chime in. One of the things that I will say that Malcolm said, I think personally that we put too much weight on entertainers because most of them are not smart enough to speak on it. Well, let me not say smart enough, but that's not where their excellence is. That's not where their intelligence is. If you notice, when I talk about this all the time, when I speak on CNN, although most of the time I crush it, most of the time, but look at who I'm debating.
Right.
I'm debating lawyers. When I'm debating with white folks, I'm debating with lawyers, scientists, doctors, teachers. They don't put what's the white boy name with the rebel flag that used to be a rapper?
Kid Rock?
Yeah, Kid Rock. They don't put Kid Rock in front of me.
Right.
But we will allow artists who, and we ask the wrong questions. So our people have been socially engineered into the position that they are in now. That's scientific. We need social engineers to speak. Where is our black intelligence?
But let me go back to what we were talking about in terms of the representation and the guidance.
Right.
Mark Garagos, one criminal attorney, should not have been represented. I don't know how they got to him. That's a mystery to me. We talked about that earlier about how do you decide who you're going to. I don't know how. I wish if I could talk to Kaepernick or Eric Reed, I said, how did y'all get to him? That's curious to me. How did and when his
Let's go.
And when they went to him, he was involved in influencing, I have to believe, to some degree, their decision to wrap that confidentially. If they were talking to me, I would say, hey, man, here's my thought. You remember how you said the other day, you told me, and I've forgotten about our conversation, you said you came, it was an NFL matter or something. And,
yeah.
and you came into the office, and I had seen it had come across my inbox or something, and I saw that this deal was being offered to you to do something. And
it was Eric Reed.
Eric Reed. Did I say Eric Reed?
Yeah, you said Ed Reed.
No,
I said Eric Reed.
He said you thought he said Ed. I was saying he talked about two different people.
No.
Eric Reed.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, that's why you picked the
Yeah.
No. I was talking about Kaepernick.
Oh.
I was gonna call Kaepernick. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. But you said you came into my office to do something. I mean, pick something up or whatever, and we crossed paths, and I stopped you, and you said I said to you.
All right, so let me tell y'all a story real quick. This is what happened. I got a real big business deal that came in, right? And during that time, it was a hot button topic, but I was in business mode and I wasn't even really thinking about it. And that was one of the things that I was going to say after, because we're going to get to some resolution. We're going to find something to resolve this, or some steps that people can use in order to find their moral compass. But one of the things that I do is I put people around me that I respect. I know that I'm one of the people that Lee looks to. I respect Regina. I respect Lee. I respect you. So a lot of times, we're not always going to be perfect morally. So when you put yourself around people that you respect, in this particular case, all Jonathan told me, he was like, David Banner, are you sure there's something you want to do? At the time, I ain't know, what the fuck you talking about? We about to get this bread. And then I know Jonathan, and he's never said anything like that to me before. So I went and read it. And I was like, oh, no, we're not doing this bullshit. So then when I came back, you remember, I said, what did I say? I said, thank you. Because at the time, so much shit was happening. You need people around you, just like when I fucked up right there. SALIH made sure that I was corrected. But I think that's one of the things, like you say, even with your representation, you have to have people who in line or in line
Share
with
your
what you believe or
values.
share
Yeah.
your values, or you may not have any values at all and put people around you. Because I used to do that with the girls that I dated. Like when I didn't know certain things, or I would find someone who was better than me, or I felt that was better than me, and they helped mold me into the person that I am. But most of the people, and excuse me, Jonathan and Regina, most people put dick suckers around them or blood suckers around them who they don't want nothing but the bag from you anyway, and they're going to replace you because they have somebody else. You know, so even in that case, when you did that, I was like, dude, that showed me your moral compass. Because that didn't really have nothing to do with you more than with well, if anything, it would affect you because you was getting a piece of that too.
I would say in the, you know, I like to think I know what the conversation went like with Garagos and Kaepernick and Eric Reed when they resolved that case. And I'd probably be safe to say that Mark Garagos did not think about the big picture and how that would rest with the rest of the community, and maybe didn't even care about it, and maybe didn't say that to them. So that's why I say it's very important that you have people around you that share your causes, that understand your community, the big picture, as opposed to, oh, okay, they got, who knows? We don't know what kind of money was on the table. We have no idea today how much money was on the table. But what I do know is that when that money got broke off, I bet Mark Garagos got paid his money. I remember when the press letter went out. It said Garagos and Garagos. Why the hell is that on his letterhead? You know, why he's out there marketing for himself. He puts out the press release that talks about the case being settled. You know, and it's just marketing, man. And that's us continuing to empower others to just make money off of us.
So saying that, let me ask you this question. I heard one of our favorite albums here at the David Banner podcast is what, Sully? Yeah, Bandana is by Freddie Gibbs. And on that album, Mos Def said something that was so powerful. He said, it's tasty for a few, but murder is for the group. And what I notice happens because of the bag, they'll go and pay one black person. And if that black person is an influencer, because actually somebody said this morning on Instagram, they say it's a difference between being a fan and worshiping somebody. You making the fucked up shit that they do right just because you like their fucking music. You know, and like is there something that you think that we can do? Because they'll go pay one black person. And I noticed that in the music industry. What they'll do is I saw that a lot of those owners of those music companies were lawyers, ex-lawyers, and ex-accountants and stuff. So what they would do is they would give one black person a whole bunch of money, know that they wasn't going to promote these artists right, and then blame it on the black person. Or give the money to them and say, well, if this person supports them, like, you know, if somebody do something racist, then they'll go get the biggest basketball player, the biggest football player, the biggest rapper. And then in the eyes of the rest of America and to a lot of black people, they think that it's correct or that it's okay now. What do you think about that?
Well, another reason why Jay-Z maybe should have thought more deeply about what that image looked like of him sitting with Roger Goodell and the influence that it had, you know, on the community, because they did that specifically. If they were concerned about social issues, have a thought leader who is committed to social issues in that room.
Can I ask a
You
question?
know?
So what's, like, just flat out, what's your main beef with the NFL?
My main beef with the NFL is that they made an example of somebody that they say they want on these teams, a good citizen. He was an extraordinary citizen. They lynched him in front of all of the other players with the intent on keeping them quiet so that they never stepped out of line. That's my main issue with him.
So you don't think that none of that was Kaepernick's fault for doing that deal where he opted out his contract?
Man, people opt out of contracts all the
But
time.
I mean, he wasn't playing great. Let's keep it real on the football
People-
field.
look here,
he
man.
wasn't. And if he would have, you think he couldn't have been a backup? No.
Look here, man. I'm no player personnel person. I know enough about football to know that Colin Kaepernick today is better than half of the players that are in.
I disagree.
Okay, well that's a different conversation. We'll go on one of these other shows in the morning.
Just
and
keep
talk
it
about
funky. Like
sports or
everybody
something.
talking all the way funky. Like keep it. He's not right
Yeah,
now.
okay,
He wasn't
okay.
that dude no more. Like, put that on the fact.
Okay.
But
Like
what I will-
everybody leave that out about it. But at
Okay.
the end of the day, that's just what matters.
Okay,
That is true, but what I will say
It's
is
not
that,
even true. It's not even true.
Come on, man.
But either way,
Who
my-
your team? You like the Falcons? Is he better
again,
than Matt Ryan?
like
Call
I
it
said,
call a
man,
spade a spade. Is he better than Matt Ryan?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't even care.
But my point is this. They knew what they were doing because they saw the people that were around him.
Right.
It became bigger than football.
Right.
And them white boys knew that. So as much as we want to bring it back down to football, no, they're breaking the spirits of black people.
Yeah.
They're breaking the spirits of black people.
Right.
And we can get specific
For
about,
profit.
Right. About football or basketball or social justice. They did that, and they did what they did to him purposely because of the rallying that people did. Now, if black people wouldn't have gotten around him and it wasn't made such a big deal, I don't think it would have went one way or another, or it really wouldn't have mattered to them one way or another. They saw an opportunity to break the spirits of black people and any other player who decided to do anything like him.
He kneeled. Reed playing again. He kneeled. Steals from the Dolphins. He's still playing.
Yeah,
he
because
kneels.
yes.
So what I'm saying, but it's exactly.
No.
I'm not saying that they
No.
right. We all know the NFL fucked up.
Let him explain. But let him explain.
No. If you go back, they're kneeling, but Kaepernick he lost his livelihood based upon him taking a stance, and they did what they needed to do by lynching him.
And that's all that really matters.
That's all that matters.
Right.
That's what all the other players. We're sitting here. You know what? If you go back and look at when all of the players band together and finally stood for something, it's when they personally got attacked.
Oh, when Trump,
when Trump called them SOBs.
Right.
That's when all of them, even Jerry Jones, started to kneel. All of them kneeled. All of the Falcons kneeled.
So it wasn't It wasn't about black people.
It was about them.
It was about them being called sons of bitches. Okay.
What Kaepernick was doing, he was kneeling for everybody else. He wasn't kneeling for himself. He was straight. You know, he was kneeling for everybody else. The players kneeled for themselves, and as long as they stay selfish in that way, as long as the NFL will support them in being selfish for them, they're cool.
Let me ask you this. We're gonna start rounding it out. What is your measuring rod for when it's enough? When do you know that, or when do you know that you have to secure the bag? Like, one is when is enough. One is when do you know you have to secure the bag?
I go back to my law school days, and there was an analysis of certain laws, and they called it a totality of the circumstances. You got to analyze all of the various factors. No two situations are exact. And so you have to take into consideration all of those. There, like I said, certain things that are non-negotiable. Respect is non-negotiable. Getting something less or being treated unfairly, that's a non-negotiable thing in the deal. Some companies don't deserve to be dealt with, or it's like, no, I don't appreciate, or I don't believe in what you all's value system is, or how you all are going about doing certain things. We were talking earlier about reality shows, and I have I don't hold myself out to be a TV person. I am a music attorney, very specifically, but I do have clients who have had the opportunity to do those shows, and I've had a number, and still do represent a number of people that come on reality shows. The business that is being done on those deals is some of the. I mean, you think a music deal is can be a bad deal. Music deals have kind of settled a little bit more with the internet and digital transmission. People, the playing field is a little bit more level. But the business being done on reality shows, man, in my view, if I was the one, they could not pay me enough money to participate on a reality. I don't care what they put in front of me, they couldn't. The companies that are doing it, in my view, don't deserve to be, engaged in that fashion, and so I it just depends upon the situation. I look at all of the factors.
So would you say it's something like what we talked about with the restaurants and what we talked about like the restaurant Houston's in Atlanta, Tip and EJ started the boycott of Houston's. I don't fuck with Houston's at all no more. Like, period. Once you show me your ass, I smell it. There's a couple more places that like once that's one like are you saying like once they show you that they'll do your people and who they are, then you shouldn't fuck with them at all. I mean,
I do believe it.
I agree with.
Now, I don't know enough about the whole Houston's thing, and so I'm not speaking to that specifically. Although that was Tip.
Fuck Houston.
I mean, although that was something Tip was involved in, I never knew enough about it to take a position.
Well, and just so you know, some things happened to me personally. Concerning Houston's before, because if you notice me, I usually don't get into things until way after they're a hot button topic, because you don't ever know both sides of the story. And usually when because we are emotional people, you jump out there and then you hear the other side of the story, then nobody wants to deal or engage with you anymore because you're emotional and you haven't gotten enough information.
Right.
With me, I had seen just the way that they had been being in my personal life personally, and then when that happened, that sort of was the tipping point for me. But I was just trying to drive that point home. Is that
it varies, man. Okay, so I represent the Wonderland Collective, which includes Janelle Monáe and Nate and Chuck, those producers that are brilliant dudes that do so much. And so, Janelle with her platform and the things that she does, we approve master use licenses. We people say, oh, we want to use this master in connection with this campaign. And so, same thing happens with Tip. People want to use his masters in connection with certain kinds of movies or an ad campaign or whatever it might be. When that request comes across my desk for a Janelle Monáe song, my analysis based upon who I know her to be and what she cares about, my analysis in whether or not we're going to do that, and I don't make the decision. If it's some things I know, I'm just clear. We can approve this. But if it's something that I think is skirting on that not being something she would approve of, then I go back to her and because I don't know for certain. It's not my decision to make. I don't know whether or not she wants to support that or not. And it's been instances where we say no, we didn't care about the money. Didn't matter. Didn't matter what the money was. It's happened even with either even larger campaigns. There's a different analysis. Some clients are like, hey man, I'm cool. Let's roll.
We're not gonna talk about the money number, but there was a 6-figure deal that I was doing with Jonathan, and we still talk about this to this day. It was probably more money than I had ever received for a beat at one time. And Jonathan told me, he was like, bruh, as good as this look, the white boys making 3 times more. And you remember they had me to do the commercial 12 times? And what's the dude name that did Jay-Z's 99 Problems? I remember Rick Rubin with the same company had told him, and I happened to overhear the conversation. I was in the office that day. Rick Rubin said, I'm the artist, I'm the producer, I ain't doing this shit but one time, take it or leave it. And guess what they did? They took it. But I remember Jonathan told me, he was like, man, at some point in our life, we're going to have to say no. And until we decide to say no, they're going to continue treating us the way that they treat us, and with no equity, or until we own our shit. You know, that's my push. It's for us to own all our shit.
And I think in that deal, that was one of my issues about, you know, ownership and whether or not you retain some of the ownership in what I saw to be a very valuable thing that you had transferred to that company. And so,
and have you ever noticed, even with that, you remember when I was trying to tell them, like, let's create, instead of waiting on pop culture to influence advertisement, let's advertisement influence pop culture. Like what I was trying to get to show them at the time, let's go make original music. And let's influence culture, because y'all gonna play it a million times and people are gonna like it anyway. They didn't listen. And remember, iTunes was calling us like, why aren't you all putting this out? Everybody is listening to it.
Right. No,
and now that's how they do advertisement in general now.
Yeah.
You know, we were way ahead of the curve. Let me ask you this really quick, and this is in closing. How do you develop your system of accountability when a bag puts you in new circles?
Yeah. Well,
or let me just say this. This is more for the kids. How did you develop your system of accountability? Let me ask that.
Well, my system of accountability is just based, one, on my my upbringing and my own personal system of accountability. What those standards are for myself, I consider those to be very, very high.
Where did it come from?
Man, it came, from my mom and my dad. It came from me matriculating through my life and learning things along the way. Man, I'm a big. I've been doing yoga, man, for 12 years, man, and I discovered it through a friend who took me to a class, and I've learned so much stuff just in the class, not solely related to just my body and my health. But one day I was in the class, and the instructor said to me, as she didn't say to me, she was talking to the class, and a lot of times they're talking about this esoteric stuff that you just let go in one ear and out the other. But she said something to me that kind of was profound. She said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And she was talking about a pose. She was like, look, don't go too deep into this pose because you might hurt yourself. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And man, I stopped in my tracks, man. I was in one of those poses, and I said, she just said some really deep stuff, man. And so what it said to me, it spoke to fairness. It was a thing about fairness.
Really quick, since you're talking about, this is something that Dirtbag Corey just asked me. How much do you implement your yoga in your personal life?
Oh man, I mean,
No. We gonna cut. I'm just joking with you, John.
I was trying to figure, because I knew, man, it's a part. Hey, man, it's a part of my piece, man. So it's a part of my piece. It's a part of how I make it through. We deal with a whole lot of various types of personalities and tension-filled stuff, man. And you got to find a place to go release that stuff, man. So it's big to me.
For those who come from situations like a lot of us come from that don't have, because like I think mine comes from my father, my grandmother, my grandfather. Lee was telling me like he actually had two fathers. He had a stepdad that he was really close to, and his dad. Like he had a lot of men around him. Because I really never seen too many people that care about the stuff that he cares about at his age. And then I was talking to him one day. I was like, bro, and he played football. So like a lot of the stuff that like core values, one of the things I thought you were gonna say that you would never that's bigger to you than the bag was loyalty.
You never asked me the question.
Oh, well, go ahead then. Go ahead then.
Nah, go ahead.
No, I want you to. No, I want you to.
Nah, I mean, like, what's bigger than the bag to me is, like, it's got to be loyalty. So it's like, when I do something, it's always how it's going to affect everybody that's around me. Because there's certain things that I may have would have did previously to being around him. Not that I think it's bad, but I love him and I know that can affect him and what he got going on. So it's like I got to look out for what I'm doing for myself and for the people that's around me that I care about, because it could affect other people even if it doesn't affect
Can you
me.
explain it? Watch this, Jonathan. Can you explain it the way you explain it to me as it pertained to football? When you was telling me, like, when basketball, one person can affect the game.
Yeah, like football, it's 11 of y'all out on the field, so you could be playing the perfect game, and if you ripping through doing what you got to do, if you're on the line or something, one blown block, everything can be perfect. One dude let this tackle slip through, whole play blown up. You know what I mean? And just like with life, a lot of times it's negative plays, but it's them plays to get you ahead that you winning. It's like you got to be part of the team. Like sometimes you don't want to do what you got to do. You might could have scored a touchdown, but you got to block this time.
Right.
You might could have play a situation where you can beat the tackle every time. You can just mash out on this tackle every play, but you got to hold honest and keep backside down if the reverse coming back around. Even if you might could really go make the tackle, but the one time they decide to call the play the right way, it can go for 6 the other way. So you just got to just play your position.
Yeah.
So my question in ending was this, Jonathan. For people who don't have the type of families and the environments that we have, what's some of the ways that they can possibly develop their own moral code? Man,
I've got a quote that I devised based upon my involvement in this business. And it is, trouble will find you, but true wisdom must be sought. In this business, I think in sports, entertainment, not enough of us are seeking places where they can get wisdom.
Right.
Because you're a celebrity, because you are, in the spotlight, people come to you. And you don't even have to be in that spotlight for trouble to find you. I can be sitting at home on a Friday night and my phone ringing, it'd be trouble. Something I don't need to do.
Jonathan, I didn't punch the motherfucker.
No, but it
I done called you before.
it comes to you. It will find you. And it is heightened when you are in this business, because people value celebrity. People want just a part of you or whatever. So you get people that are basically parasites. You get people that, everybody's running to you. They got this thing they want you to be involved in. They want you to put some money up. They want all of this stuff. It might people that just want to be a part. And most of the time, that's trouble. Wisdom does not chase you down. Wisdom is something, it's out there and it's available to you, but you got to go to it. And unfortunately, celebrities, entertainers aren't of the mindset to go things. They sit in a position where things come to them, and that's not a good thing, man. You gotta find that. It's around you, but I'd like to think that I have some wisdom, that I've learned some things over the years, that I have something to offer to somebody in your business and just in life, period. You can come see me anytime, man. As can my family, as can my friends, as can others. But if you don't go to it, people want to be chased down, and that's not going to chase you down. Well, on the bag issue, and I don't know. I'm writing the book. Is that?
No,
we talked about it. I had actually have it.
You are now.
You said so. I need to start writing tonight. Then no, we talked about me working on something. I had an idea that
for the etiquette,
yes,
but we have been talking about that for years.
It's actually not etiquette though. But
I just confirmed it in you, so it's coming.
Yeah. We're doing it.
I remember you told me.
We're doing it. I've been really considering the whole issue of fairness, man. Because it's so it seems very simple, and it's not a lot of stuff out there on it, and I want to research it and really start to delve into it, because I think that's, if we could solve some of that and understand it, I think there needs to be more material out there on it, and it's not enough. So that's something that I do want to do. But what was I about to? I was about to tell you.
Going to give us some recommended reading. We talk about the bag. And a book that I oftentimes give to clients. I might have given you one. I don't recall.
but it's the millionaire next door.
No, you gave me a bill.
What are,
That's a good book.
Hey, no, I think I maybe gave you that book, man.
No.
I would keep a
Cause
stack.
I collect books. Like I collect
Yeah.
first edition books.
Well, I'll
please.
get you that one. But the Millionaire Next
get the
Door
first edition.
is absolute, positively necessary reading for anybody that wants to understand wealth. And it's a book about common practices of millionaires that you don't know are millionaires. The ones not the stereotypical millionaire that has made all their money through. It's obvious that person's probably a millionaire. It's about the ones that you don't know about, the ones that are in neighborhoods that are going under the radar, that are it talks about this, most are first generation millionaires. And it talks about the path they take to get there. And so I give that to clients because it's such a problem in this business where we get so much and we squander it. Yeah. One of the things, and I'll end on this, but one of the things it says, most millionaires do not buy new cars. Because a car is such a...
Mr. Moody, though.
will not buy a new car because they understand how bad of an investment it is. Most will go and find a car that's been in the marketplace for about a year. Somebody has accepted the depreciation on that inflated depreciating asset, and then they bought it at a time when it's probably worth more than they had to pay for it. And so it has all kind of little tidbits like that. The things that this whole idea about, oh man, I got to get this first. I got to have this car first. I don't understand that. That to me, I got to be the first one to drive this. I got to be the first one to have this kind of sneaker. I got to be the first one to have, I don't, that's in your value system where you start to do that. And so the Millionaire Next Door starts to give, every person in this business, I think, should be reading it because it has so many tidbits on how they should conduct themselves from a financial standpoint.
So my advice, bro, is you need to get your own podcast, bro.
Man,
we could do the paperwork. I'm just messing. No, bro.
How much? How we gonna chop it up?
Oh no, bro. Hey, bro, whatever I do for you, bro, to be from the bottom of my heart.
Nah, man.
The things that you've done for a lot of our lives, man. And I'll tell you the last thing before we get ready to wrap up that let me know what type of person you are is how you talked about your other clients. And I always tell people, you know how people really talk about you when you're not around? It's because of the way that they talk about other people when they are not around. So, of course, you're always going to give people a certain amount of respect because they're sitting right there in front of you. Mm-hmm. But, like, I can't name any of their names, but just like how emotional you were, even speaking about the reality TV shows. When you first, if you remember, when you first dove into that, I walked into the office and I sat down to ask you one question and we ended up talking for 2 hours because you was telling me the bullshit that they were taking, those people in. And then once you had got one person, something that was even halfway fair, everybody was like, shit, we need to go talk to Jonathan.
Represented half the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you and we thank y'all. You all know before we leave, I always like to leave the David Banner podcast with an elder that has something to say.
And before he does that this time, I want to tell everybody, go subscribe to a Banner Vision on YouTube. And you can hashtag it the David Banner Podcast on IG to follow along also.
Where do they shop at?
Oh, you shop at bannervision.com. DavidBanner.com.
Right,
Excuse me.
But they go to Banner Vision and get some, information for the money.
For the shopping, the hats and everything.
Stephanie, make sure that, because I don't market like I should, just put davidbanner.com below every now and then to let it roll past. Jonathan, is it anything that you want people to buy or any websites or anything?
Nah, man, I just got on Instagram.
John's like, I got so much money. Oh, man, shit,
Nah, man, I'm just starting to... I don't even have a website for my firm.
Because you don't need one.
And I just got on Instagram maybe, 6 months ago. So, I'm just figuring all this stuff out, man.
Jonathan, I heard you gang bang, bro. What's your set?
About my what?
You know your set, your gang.
What's that? What's it?
You don't have one, Jonathan.
You know what I'm talking about.
Nah,
Talk
man.
that shit.
I don't know, man. I don't know,
What
man.
you agree? Here,
Oh, yeah.
That's your motherfucking gang.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah, that's colors. And don't y'all throw gang signs?
No.
Yes, y'all do. Yes, you do. Come on.
You going back to my college days,
Yeah, go
man.
talk some of that shit, man.
Shout out to Morehouse. Shout out to the Noops. All that. Shout out to HBCU. All HBCUs. You know about that. Didn't you go? Where did you go?
I went to Southern University.
Okay.
Why
did I think you went to Morgan?
I don't know. But
Somebody said Morgan at one
yeah,
point, I
since
guess.
Scott
Okay,
gone, FAMU. FAMU. Oh, because Scott went to FAMU. All right, y'all, before we wrap up, we always grab an elder because I like to have balance. We got the youth, we got the middle ground, and we have the elders, and we always like to end with an elder. So let's see what our elder for today has to say. KLC from Beats by the Pound, who will be a guest very soon. Check out what he had to say. Oh, shit. Nothing actually happened right there. Yeah, KLC from Beats by the Pound. I'm pushing the wrong button, y'all. Peace, be. All right, there you go.
Yo, what up? It's KLC, the drum major. Beats by the Pound, you hear me? And I just want to let someone, whoever needs to hear this, know. When it comes to the money, the bag, or whatever this new generation may call it, never compromise your pride, your dignity, your self-esteem, your manhood, or anything that makes you respected for money. Because one thing I'm going to tell you, and loyalty go with that as well, and one thing that I can tell you is this here. Once any of that is destroyed, you can't get it back. There's plenty of ways where you can find a way to make money, to make a living. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to destroying everything that makes you who you are, or what you want people to respect you for, once that's damaged or gone, you have nothing. And always remember, you can always find ways to make money. But you cannot replace loyalty, manhood, pride, dignity, self-esteem, and all of that. So just keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? There's only one you, but there's buku ways to make money. Believe that.
The David Banner Podcast. Peace.